The related observations that have been triggered are still very striking. In addition, as the United States approaches its 250th anniversary, Trump and Speaker Johnson are showing a tough stance in the face of what they see as the greatest threat to America. So what exactly is it? Also, Trump, today, he is setting off for Ankara, Turkey to attend the so-called NATO summit. So, what will Trump focus on saying at the NATO summit? Welcome to Rice Bowl time. And to our YouTube viewers and listeners of Sound of Hope Silicon Valley FM 96.1. Hello to everyone. This is Feng Wei, still traveling. Right now, I'm broadcasting live from a hotel in New York. Hey, once again, please forgive me if the video quality or the setting isn't perfect. Let's focus on the content, okay? I think the 250th anniversary this weekend is still a major highlight. Last night, I did a live stream, but halfway through, the connection got cut off. So today, I want to continue talking to everyone about how on July 3rd, the day before the 250th anniversary of America's founding, Trump gave a speech at Mount Rushmore. Then, on the night of Independence Day, even though a storm was approaching and his speech was delayed by 2 hours, Trump still delivered his address. He finally gave the speech, and it was an important one. So I'm going to explain the main points from these two speeches for everyone, and also add my own commentary. First of all, at Mount Rushmore, President Trump's main point was that America is an exceptional country. An exceptional country, also known as a nation blessed by God, or a nation chosen by God. In other words, America is a different kind of country. It's special. And in addition to that, when he was at the foot of Mount Rushmore in South Carolina, he called on South Carolina. At the foot of Mount Rushmore in South Carolina, he called on South Carolina senators. In other words, he urged Senate Republican leader John Thune to take the lead in breaking through the filibuster restrictions on the Republican Party in the Senate. If they did that, well, so President Trump said that if this happens, the Republican Party could win for another 100 years. That's why, in the past few days, Trump's statements about the so-called Save America Act have been extremely forceful. In addition, Trump tweeted again this morning, "Smart Republicans, if you don't take action, don't expect to stay in your positions for long. I don't want to be the last Republican president." So he said there's nothing Americans can't do except for obtaining voter ID and proof of citizenship. And he also talked about abolishing the filibuster system. And then let me put it this way. Everyone knows President Trump places a lot of importance on saving market actors. I have to add my own comment here. If I ever had the chance to advise him or give him some suggestions, I think he always says this. He puts a lot of emphasis on this political need for the Republican Party, but abolishing the filibuster as well as the Saving Market Act, these refer to things like voter ID and citizen ID. These two things actually aren't about partisan disputes. Think about it. Requiring an ID to vote to prove that you are the person casting the vote, that's not even a Republican issue. Even though it currently benefits the Republican Party, it's fundamentally a basic civic issue, a basic requirement for a country. For the United States, it's the most basic condition for a republic, right? If President Trump says not to talk about it, whether it's the Republican or Democratic Party that abolishes this, not requiring proof to vote, that's just way too basic. It prevents Democrats from cheating, and it also prevents Republicans from cheating. Put this way, I think it would ease a lot of concerns among so-called moderate Republicans who worry that taking this stance is too partisan, because it really truly isn't. This is absolutely not a partisan issue at all. That's how I see the essence of this matter. Of course, this is just my commentary. This is Feng Wei speaking, and I'm just here to tell everyone that the Save Market Act is truly a proposal with extremely strong legitimacy and justice. All right, let's get back to Trump's national address, his Independence Day speech. Trump talked about two main themes, the American flag and American heroes. After all, America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. So in his Independence Day speech, Trump really listed out the American heroes who went through the Civil War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and even the later moon landing missions, and he connected them with the American flag. Ugh. So they were presented together. But anyway, the main point of both of these speeches, aside from emphasizing that America is a great nation, an exceptional country, is that the other main focus was on the threat America currently faces from communism. Let me highlight a few key points. President Trump said that communism absolutely does not work and that America will never fall. He spoke with a lot of confidence. And he said that communism targets everything that America stands for. So America is the country least likely to embrace communism, and yet now it's actually being called communist. Well, that's not his words, that's mine. It's really like they're breaking into our homes. President Trump said communism has never worked. Its history is full of death and destruction, which is completely at odds with America's rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is exactly what's stated in the Declaration of Independence. It says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The right to pursue happiness, put simply, is the right to own property. So communism, these things are completely at odds with each other. They're like fire and water, totally incompatible. In addition, President Trump said that patriots and communists are mutually exclusive. You can't be both. You're either a patriot or a communist. So the implication is that America and communism are like fire and water, completely incompatible. He also compared communist ideology to cancer, saying that we must remove it as soon as possible to prevent it from spreading further. So how do we get rid of it? How do we get rid of it? That's a good question. At this point, Trump once again mentioned the Save America Act. If Congress can establish a proper and fair system to ensure the integrity of elections, in a very emphatic way, Trump said that America will never become a communist country. What do you think? Let's ask everyone. What do you think is the probability that America will become a communist country? Let's do a poll here. You can write down what you think the probability is. Just be honest. Let's see what everyone thinks. All right, and in addition, also, there's this American entrepreneur and venture capitalist named Mac Waters who posted on X saying that communism killed 100 million people in just the 20th century. 100 million people! We absolutely cannot allow this kind of ideology to have any foothold. He posted a chart listing the number of deaths caused by various communist regimes around the world. At the very top, sorry, since I'm recording this in a hotel, I can't show you the image. I can only describe it. The number that stands out far above the rest is the death toll caused by the Chinese Communist Party. The death toll is the highest, and after Elon Musk, the world's richest man and a trillionaire in tech, saw this post, he retweeted it. Then he added a comment saying that communism is the philosophy that has caused the most deaths among all schools of thought. In addition, the official X account of the House Republicans also posted, saying 100 million deaths. This is the verdict on Marxism. History has already run this experiment. We cannot repeat the same mistake. Musk also retweeted this post and added 2 words, which basically mean, that's right. What is that's right in English? Or you could say correct. All right, so besides that, how does the Speaker of the House in the US see this? Right now, there are candidates from the Democratic Socialists of America who support these ideas. They keep appearing in Democratic primaries across the country, and they're winning elections. So what does the Speaker of the House, Johnson, think about this issue? Yesterday, in an interview with Fox News, Johnson made a few key points. He said, first, the emergence of the DSA within the Democratic Party isn't just a simple ideological shift within the party. All right. Second, democratic socialism is a serious threat to our entire system of government. It's a fundamental challenge to America's political traditions and a challenge and threat to everything America stands for. Then, third, he referenced President Reagan's warnings about overseas communism during the Cold War, but he said that was a threat from the distant other side of the world. In contrast, today, he used an allusion from when ancient Rome was facing destruction. He said the barbarians are already at the gates. What does this mean? This refers to the year 410 AD. As everyone knows, the Roman Empire at that time was like a 1,000-year empire. The city of Rome had not been conquered by foreign enemies for 800 years. 800, not 80. So Rome was considered an invincible empire, and the city of Rome was called the Eternal City. But in 410 AD, the king of the Visigoths, yes, the Western Goths, Alaric led his army to breach Rome and plunder the city, shaking the entire Mediterranean world. Then, 45 years later, the Vandals attacked Rome again from the sea, ransacking the city for 2 weeks. The destruction they inflicted on Rome was both thorough and notorious. It even gave rise to a word. That word is what we know today as vandalism. Vandalism comes from the Vandals' plundering of Rome, so it became a modern term rooted in history. So, of course, how did Rome fall? It wasn't because the external enemies were so powerful, but rather because of the political corruption and internal strife within Rome itself. On top of that, with the currency devaluation and economic collapse at the time, the loss of the citizens' martial spirit and the breakdown of morality and social cohesion, these so-called barbarians actually just walked right through the cracks in Rome's city walls. They didn't really storm their way in. So the fall or decline of Rome has become a cautionary tale, a prophetic warning for Western civilization. So this is what Johnson was referring to when he said the barbarians are already inside the gates. He was talking about a danger that America is facing right now. So what is America really like today? Is it really that dangerous? First of all, 2 points. The first is that for the Democrats, they've already openly admitted that they feel powerless to deal with it. Why do I say this is about the whole country? As you all know, every year in the United States, 4.2 million young people become eligible to vote because they turn 18, while 2.4 million elderly Americans pass away. So in effect, every year, I'm not talking about every 4 years, but every single year, there's a turnover of 7 million people. So who will these votes go to? That's what I want to focus on next. Let's start with the Democratic Party. Why do they say they're powerless? It's because today's American socialists, or the Communist Party, are just putting old wine in new bottles. First of all, Bernie Sanders has spent the past 10 years working hard to normalize the DSA, or democratic socialism. He says that the typical example of democratic socialism is the socialism in the Nordic countries. Look at how well they've done. Why can't we be like that? But the problem is, this is actually a complete and utter lie. Democratic socialism, or let's call it the Democratic Socialist Party, even today, they don't even dare call themselves a party. They vaguely refer to themselves as the Democratic Socialists of America. It's actually completely different from the Social Democratic Party that's currently in power in the Nordic countries, even though the words seem to just be swapped around. Democratic socialists aim to achieve socialism through democratic means. But the Social Democratic Party seeks to achieve welfare and equality through a capitalist economy. Democratic socialism, on the other hand, sees capitalism as evil and wants to replace the capitalist economy with public ownership. And the Social Democratic Party, they believe that a capitalist economy and market competition are beneficial. That's why the vast majority of the Nordic economies are privately owned, and even their state-owned enterprises are being reviewed and continuously privatized. All right, so democratic socialists emphasize that the means of production should be collectively owned. Communism is about communal ownership. In contrast, the Social Democratic Party focuses on things like taxation, welfare, regulation, and negotiations between labor and management. So when many American leftists say they want Nordic socialism, they're actually mistaken, or maybe they're deliberately trying to confuse things. The Nordic model is absolutely not the Soviet-style socialism, nor is it the Communist Party-style socialism. Instead, it's a capitalist economy combined with what's called social welfare. That's the situation. But of course, to be strict about it, let me add a bit of my own commentary here. The Nordic social democratic parties, in essence, are also practicing a certain degree of socialism. It's just that the extent is relatively mild. They haven't changed the entire way the economy operates. It's mainly about redistribution. What they're pursuing is a kind of semi-socialism, but democratic socialism is completely and blatantly the ideology of the Communist Party. It's like putting the ultimate goal right in front of everyone, right in front of Americans. All right, so this is why Bernie Sanders' packaging has really confused a lot of people, because how many young Americans are actually going to listen to Fang Wei explain to them that democratic socialism is not the same as social democracy? They're two completely different things. People who don't know any better will be misled by him, and he just keeps confidently repeating these lies, so those who don't know the truth keep believing them. This includes a lot of Chinese people who see it this way too. All right, second is the packaging by Mandani. In Mandani's packaging, this has been very successful. This packaging makes it so that socialism and communism are no longer what we understood them to be 30 years ago, as something that brings poverty, an ideology that brings tyranny and suffering and is a failed ideology. It has been experimented with for 100 years. It ended in total failure. But today, Mandani has repackaged it as something that can solve housing costs. It's supposed to solve student debt, healthcare costs, corporate rights, the impact of artificial intelligence on jobs, loneliness, inequality, and pretty much every anxiety faced by the younger generation. The answer? This is a cure-all. So actually, young voters aren't Marxist-Leninists. But they've been convinced that the American dream no longer exists today and that the difficulties they face in life, they've been convinced that the free market and capitalism are to blame. This is the situation young people in America are facing today. In a country like the United States, where a free economy is still thriving and the system fully protects this free economy, young people should be choosing to work hard, to strive, and to overcome their difficulties through diligence. But instead, they've been led to believe that it's always someone else's fault, that it's the fault of the rich. All right, so in 2025, there were two polls, one by Rasmussen and another called Heartland. Let me share some numbers from these polls, and you might find them pretty shocking. Among American voters aged 18 to 39, 53% hope that democratic socialism will win in the 2028 election. Okay, what's even more shocking is that 76% of young Americans believe that major industries like healthcare, energy, and big tech should be nationalized. To give people more control, this is exactly how Venezuela went from being the richest country in South America to the poorest, all within 20 years. That is, they took Venezuela's major industries, including the oil industry, and nationalized all these major enterprises. All right, so what happened 2 months later? Rasmussen and Heartland conducted another poll, and the results confirmed the poll from 2 months earlier. 51% of young American voters aged 18 to 39 hope that a democratic socialist will win the presidential election in 2028. So what does that include? Listen carefully to this. Among them, 27% are young people who voted for Trump in 2024. Okay, so in both that month and the following month's polls last year, 42% of young Democrats said that if the Republican candidate proposed a better plan to lower housing costs, they would vote for them. And 45% of American Republicans believe that if the Democrats could do the same thing, they would vote for the Democrats. So in this situation, who can make the biggest promises? We all know that socialists are the boldest when it comes to making big promises. So it's just the same old socialism in new packaging, new lies, and with the current toughness of democratic socialists, plus their funding and grassroots mobilization abilities, the Democratic Party feels like they can't stop them. Today, the Democrats aren't trying to purge the party, they simply can't stop them at all. So if they can't stop them, can America stop them? Like I just mentioned, every year there are 7 million voters being replaced. You know, Trump won, he won the 2024 election with how many votes? Around 76 million, right? About 75 to 76 million people. But every year, 7 million voters are replaced. So I don't know if you feel worried or not. Why don't you all leave a comment, okay? Are you worried or not? Actually, President Trump was very confident in his speeches on Monday, the 3rd and 4th. He said we can solve this problem and that America will never fall. He spoke very concisely and with great confidence. So, are you still worried? Do you feel worried? Well, whether you're worried or not, you can leave a comment, okay? Just write worried or not worried. Okay, so are you ready to face communism? How will you drive back the communists who have invaded America's gates? Yesterday, I asked Professor Skousen the same question, and he gave an answer. You want to know what his answer was? Well, it was on a show yesterday morning called The Secret of America's Success. I highly recommend everyone watch it, although it's a bit long, about an hour and a half. If you watch it at a faster speed, it might not take as long. But really, to be honest, as an ordinary person, what exactly should we do right now? Okay, up until now, the news we've talked about has been pretty heavy, so let's talk about something lighter. On July 4th, the United States will celebrate its 250th anniversary at the site where the Declaration of Independence was signed, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Independence National Historical Park held an official time capsule sealing ceremony, organized by the U.S. Semi-Quincentennial Commission established by Congress for the country's 250th anniversary. So on that day, which was the day before yesterday, the temperature soared to 38 degrees Celsius, or about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, with the scorching sun blazing down, but still large crowds gathered at the scene. Now, what exactly is a time capsule? It's an 80-pound steel box filled with 200 items from our era. These 200 items are meant to capture all aspects and characteristics of our era. They're placed inside the steel container and buried underground in Philadelphia. 250 years later, it will be unearthed on the 500th anniversary of the founding of the United States to reflect on what America was like back then. So what kinds of things were put inside? For example, a pocket-sized edition of the Constitution, personally signed by all the Supreme Court justices, was included. Letters signed by the governors of all the U.S. states were included, along with cultural works and memorabilia from major American sports leagues. There are also unique souvenirs, such as a dismantled smartphone and a piece of natural crystal from inside the crystal ball used for the New Year's Eve countdown in Times Square, New York, for the year 2026.